In 1985, the world's favorite TV show was called Evil Brat. The show starred Balthazar Brat, a boy wonder obsessed with crime and world domination. Brat was the biggest child actor of the 1980s and had fans all over the world, until the day the young star entered puberty and his show was cancelled. After being rejected by Hollywood, Brat began to believe that he really was the character he played on TV and started committing real crimes. Today, years after the end of his career, the man is still obsessed with the idea of being a villain and plans to commit a crime yet unheard in history, a robbery on the high seas. He uses his chewing gum to trap the guard and then throws the man into the cabin. The gum forms an even bigger bubble and thus all the ship's security guards are captured. Now the way is clear for Brat to steal the Dumont diamond, the largest in the world. The AVL agents are tipped off about the heist, and Silas sends Gru and Lucy to capture the villain. Meanwhile, Brat wraps the safe with his yo-yo and manages to melt it down. New armed guards appear to try to stop the man, but Brat uses his powerful Rubik Cube to get rid of them. Just then, agents Gru and Lucy use their inflatable motorcycles to float under the water to reach the ship. Dave and Jerry try to help, but end up being thrown onto the sand of the beach. When Brat and Gru meet, the man asks if the former villain is enjoying his transition to an agent career. They exchange a few blows, but the mustachioed man uses his dance moves to dodge the attacks. Then Gru takes advantage of the distraction to punch him right in the face. After retrieving the diamond, the bald man calls the Alpha team to take the artifact. Just when the agent least expects it, Brat stands up and uses his guitar to send Gru away. During the attack, the agent loses his clothes and is left hanging from the ship attached to the giant gum, all while the minions are having a party on the beach. But the important thing is that Gru managed to successfully complete part of his mission and recovered the diamond. The next day, Gru and Lucy are driving to AVL headquarters when a tattooed guy, who was in the vehicle next to them, tries to intimidate them. At this point, the former villain again exercises his villainy by sending the bearded man away. Gru is outraged that he has let Brat get away with this once again and cannot forgive himself for it. The bald man promises that the next time he meets with him, he will punch him in the face. That morning, all AVL members gather for an important meeting, at which Silas informs them that he will no longer be the head of the agency. Instead, a new person has been sent directly from headquarters to take over. Her name is Valerie Da Vinci. Upon entering the room, the woman immediately arranges to get rid of Silas before he can even say goodbye to his former coworkers. Valerie then asks which of those people is Agent Gru. Just then, the man receives a call from his daughters and Valerie goes to him. She is furious that Gru has let Brat escape, but he reminds her that he has managed to recover the diamond and states that he is very close to capturing the villain. Even so, Valerie decides to fire him. Lucy then speaks up and says that if the woman fires Gru, she will have to fire her too. Minutes later, the couple is thrown out of the aircraft along with all the things from their office. When they arrive home, they realize that the door is open and immediately prepare to capture the possible intruder. However, to the surprise of the agents, they are the ones who were captured and taken to the garden. Their daughters have prepared a surprise for the couple, since they have not had a honeymoon. While the minions play a song, Agnes serves dinner. Gru finds jujubes in the soup, but decides to try it. Despite the horrible taste, the man praises his daughters for their work. The girls ask how the work went that day and Gru tells them that they were both asked never to work at AVL again. The girls are worried, but Lucy tries to reassure them that they will get a new job in no time. Suddenly, Gru receives a phone call from Mel. That day, all the minions are in celebration with the expectation that now that Gru is no longer a secret agent, he will be a villain again. Gru claims that this will never happen. However, Mel tries to convince him otherwise through images that show how happy Gru was leading a life of crime. When they realize that nothing will be able to convince Gru to return to villainy, the minions decide to resign. Only Dave and Jerry remain there, because they arrived after everyone else had already left. After being rescued by Gru, the Dumont diamond was taken to a gallery in Paris and Monsieur Pompo was summoned there to confirm that the stone is real. Upon analyzing it and confirming that the one in front of him is the real Dumont, the man hits the guards with tranquilizer darts and removes his mask, revealing his true identity. Brat was in a costume so he could steal the diamond again and escapes through the glass ceiling taking the stone along with him. Before going to bed, Lucy goes to the girls' room to check that they are all okay. Then she goes to talk to Gru and asks what her husband is doing there alone. The man reveals that after what happened, he is feeling like a big failure and Lucy tries to cheer him up. Outside in the rain, the minions encounter a gentleman who is looking for Gru's address. Upon hearing the name of their former boss, the shorties get angry and leave after destroying the paper on which the address was written. The next morning, Gru finds out from a newspaper report that Brat has stolen the diamond again. Just then, he spots Agnes in the front yard selling her favorite stuffed unicorn to another child. The girl set up a bazaar with her toys to raise money, since her parents lost their jobs. Gru is proud of his daughter, but assures her that everything will be fine and helps her take her toys back home. Just then, the old man who was looking for him the night before appears, but Gru orders him to leave. The man insists that he has something important to say, and the bald man uses a vacuum cleaner to send him away. Minutes later, the old man returns and introduces himself as Fritz. As Kyle bites his leg, Fritz reveals that he is there on behalf of Drew, Gru's twin brother. Now that his father has passed away, Drew wants his brother to come to Fredonia to meet him. Upon hearing this, Gru says that his father died when he was still a baby and claims that he has no brother. Then Fritz shows an old photo of his family and Gru goes to confront his mother. When he arrives at the mansion, his mother is in the middle of a swimming lesson and Gru waits for the instructors to leave to ask if he has a twin brother. Upon hearing the question, his mother becomes furious and questions who it was that told that story. The woman reveals that shortly after Gru and her brother were born, she and her husband divorced. The agreement was that each one would keep one of the children and the couple swore that they would never meet again. In this instant, Gru is overjoyed to learn that he has a twin brother and goes with his family to Fredonia to find him. When they land, they come across dozens of pigs and Fritz informs them that those animals are part of the family business. One of the pigs decides to give Gru a ride to the mansion, where he will finally meet his brother. Upon entering the house, Lucy is amazed to see drawings of pigs scattered everywhere, from the ceiling to the walls. Then Drew shows up and Gru is very happy to see him, until he discovers his brother's hair. At this point, the bald man begins to feel envious of his hairy copy, who, besides being rich, has the hair that Gru has always dreamed of. The situation only gets worse when Drew proves to get along with Lucy and the girls. When he opens the door, the man shows the dozens of luxury cars that are parked in the courtyard of his mansion and Gru calls his wife to come home. He says that now, seeing his brother's great success, he feels worse than when he arrived. However, Lucy asks Gru to give his brother a chance. While she takes the girls for a walk in the city, Drew goes to show off the family business to his bald twin. They walk through the garden and enter a secret passage. Once inside the hiding place, Drew reveals that pig farming is just a front for the family's real business, villainy. He tells that their father was one of the greatest villains of all time and was known as the Bald Terror. The man was proud of the great villain that Gru had become, but thought that Drew was just an underachiever who had no talent to be a villain. Drew then asks his brother to teach him the art of villainy, but Gru refuses. He claims that he has abandoned the life of crime and does not intend to return to it. In an attempt to get his brother to change his mind, Drew pulls a lever and opens a hole in the ground. Dave and Jerry fall in, along with one of the pigs, but soon return to the surface in a jet vehicle. Drew reveals that this was his father's car and calls Gru for a ride. The vehicle, which has weapons hidden everywhere, ends up going over a cliff, but before they fall into the sea, Drew manages to grab onto the rock and uses his powerful engines, along with the spiky tires, to climb the mountain and get back on the road. Meanwhile, Lucy and her daughters accompany Fritz to the Fredonia Cheese Festival. Edith and Agnes spot several candies, but Lucy gives them each enough money to buy only one candy. However, Agnes wants to eat much more, so the woman takes all the money out of her pocket and hands it to the girl. Seeing this, Margot decides to intervene and says that if Lucy wants to be a good mother, she needs to learn to have a firm hand. Since she is still new to this child care business and wants to learn how to be a good mother, the woman decides to listen to the girl. Minutes later, they spot some boys dancing with a cheese plate in their hands while the girls grab a cheese. However, Nico is left dancing alone, because no one wants his cheese. Lucy then asks Margot to go and get it, but the girl refuses. So the woman decides to play the tough mom role and orders the girl to go over and get the boy's cheese. When Margot approaches, Nico starts dancing again and jumps for joy when the young woman decides to taste his cheese. Meanwhile, Edith and Agnes disappear. They enter the Tipsy Unicorn, because Agnes is totally obsessed with these animals. She sees a supposed unicorn horn hanging on the wall, but Edith claims that that horn is fake. Then the owner of the bar shows up to reveal that that horn is real and came from the Crooked Forest, the only place in the world where unicorns still exist. Upon hearing this, the bar people start laughing and Agnes asks what should she do to also find a unicorn. The man then tells her that if a pure-hearted maiden enters the forest, the unicorn will appear and be hers forever. This phrase makes Agnes extremely excited and the girl lets out a scream of joy. The moment she hears the girl screaming, Lucy gets desperate and enters the bar, beating everyone up. When she realizes that Agnes was only expressing her joy, it is already too late, and the only thing left to do is to ask everyone's forgiveness and leave. In Brat's mansion, the man watches his old TV commercial. In the 1980s, his show was so famous that the children's favorite toy was the Brat action figure. He still can't accept the early end of his fame and intends to get revenge on Hollywood for canceling his show. Meanwhile, Drew continues working on his mission to get his brother back into villainy. He stops the car next to a candy truck and steals 2 lollipops. Soon after, the police show up and Gru takes the wheel. The former villain again feels the adrenaline coursing through his veins as he flees in the turbocharged automobile. They escape through the narrow streets of Fredonia while the cops use pigs as vehicles to chase them. Then Gru has the idea to drill through the ground and escape underground. They fall into the sea and manage to float because the tires of the car become buoys. During the time they were alone, the minions walked all over the city without even being able to feed themselves. Tired and hungry, the little creatures chase a pizza delivery man who was on his way to Mondial Productions, a musical theater. During the invasion, the guard calls the police, and the minions end up entering the stage while escaping. Trapped, they begin to sing in front of the audience and the jury, winning the hearts of the entire audience with their unusual show. However, at the end of the performance, they are captured and taken to jail. On the edge of a deserted beach, while waiting for their clothes to dry, Drew begs his brother to accompany him on a robbery and asks if there is anything he wants to steal. Immediately, Gru suggests that they steal the largest diamond in the world, and Drew accepts the proposal. To celebrate, they decide to play a prank on Lucy and the girls. During dinner they change clothes and try to impersonate each other. However, as soon as they enter the room, their disguises are blown, and they are the only ones having fun with the bizarre situation. Meanwhile, Agnes devours her food and runs to bed. The girl wants to go to sleep soon so she can wake up early the next day and go look for her unicorn. A few days after entering the penitentiary, the minions start to dominate the place and not even the most dangerous inmates dare to mess with them. One day, while taking a bath, Mel remembers the good times he had with Gru and how the man supported him every time he needed it. Hours later, during dinner, Mel manages to convince his companions to leave the prison and return to Gru. Across town, Brat watches an episode of his old series to get ideas on how to execute his revenge. Just as in the episode, the man decides to use his powerful gum to destroy the city, along with the residents, and enlists the help of Clive, his robot assistant, to devise his diabolical plan. In the Crooked Forest, Agnes and Edith begin their adventure in search of the unicorn. The youngest carries a backpack full of sweets, which she uses as bait to lure the animal. While the girls await the arrival of the unicorn, the twins devise a plan to break into Brat's hideout. The place is surrounded by the most modern weapons on the planet, which makes the fortress almost impenetrable. Their security system can detect air attacks from any direction, so Gru suggests they use a boat to get to the location. The next challenge is to avoid the giant skewers coated in a poison capable of making the victim's head explode. Then, the bald villain asks Drew to stay on the boat to be the getaway pilot while he enters the hideout and steals the diamond. Hours later, Nico rings the mansion's doorbell and offers a pig as a gift to confirm his engagement to Margot. Upon hearing this, Lucy starts to laugh, but the girl is terrified. The woman clarifies the situation and tells the boy to go away. What she didn't expect was that soon after, Nico's mother would show up at her door to insult Margot for refusing her son. At that moment, seeing her daughter being attacked, Lucy becomes furious and threatens the woman. She then orders her to leave. When they enter the mansion again, Margot hugs her and Lucy is overjoyed to realize that she is learning to be a good mother. She rushes to tell her husband about what has happened, and at that moment sees Gru and his brother using the jet boat to sneak out in their new uniforms. Several hours after they arrive in the forest, Agnes is frustrated that she has not yet seen the unicorn. Edith tries to convince her to leave, but then something unexpected happens. A little goat appears to eat the candy. Since only one horn of the animal had grown, Agnes believes it to be a unicorn, and Edith decides to keep quiet so as not to spoil her sister's joy. The twins' plan has already begun to be put into action. However, contrary to what Drew is thinking, Gru does not intend to steal the diamond because he wants to return to villainy, but rather because he wants to use it to get his job back. Gru is thrown up high and begins to climb the tower, but his brother decides to ignore the plan and instead of staying on the boat as an escape pilot, decides to accompany him on the invasion. However, Drew has no experience as a supervillain and is almost detected by the security system. Under Gru's command, the duo manages to break into the Rubik Cube and enter the hiding place through the pipe. In prison, the minions begin to build a machine that will enable them to get the hell out of there. They start stealing the penitentiary's fans and toilets, as well as the inmates' washing machine and uniforms. Now that their invention is ready, they just have to find Gru to make everything go back to the way it was before. Unexpectedly, the twins arrive in Brat's room and Gru tries to steal the diamond while the man is sleeping. Everything would have worked out fine if Drew hadn't stepped on a toy and made the noise that wakes Brat up. When he leaves his room, the pair walk through the mansion and find a wall full of mini-brats. The next stop is the gum factory that is stocked so that the boy can carry out his revenge. Drew decides to chew a piece of gum, but the gum starts to grow and covers his breath. Drew tries to help his brother, but they end up being discovered. Brat is surprised when Drew uses his gum to trap him, and Drew takes the opportunity to steal the stone. While on the run, the brothers are chased by hundreds of mini-brats, but manage to escape. During their escape, they end up falling and are about to be pierced by the giant skewers, but Lucy shows up just in time and manages to save them with the help of a helicopter. When he finds out that his brother intends to take the diamond back to AVL, Drew is furious because he feels cheated. When they arrive at the mansion, he tries to stop Drew from going through with his plan and intends to keep the stone as a trophy for the first crime they committed together. After they argue, the bald man keeps the diamond and Drew states that they are no longer brothers. In the main hall, the man finds his daughters and Agnes presents the unicorn to her father. Drew tries to tell the girl the truth and informs her that the animal is just a goat. However, this news does not shake Agnes' joy, and she affirms that Felicio is the best goat on the planet. Suddenly, Lucy appears and takes the diamond from her husband's hands. The woman calls the girls to get on the plane while Drew loads the bags. As they board the aircraft, Brat removes his mask and states that instead of taking the girls home, they will take a tour of Hollywood. Minutes later, Drew finds his wife gagged inside a closet and discovers that his arch-enemy has taken their daughters. Desperate, he swallows his pride and goes to his brother for help. When Drew discovers that his nieces have been taken, he rushes to the jet and the three of them go off in search of the girls. During the flight, Drew asks forgiveness for lying to him and they make up. Just then, the minions find their former boss and turn around to go after him. Meanwhile, Brat surprises everyone in town when he comes out of the sea with his giant toy. He walks under Los Angeles, destroying everything in his path. The man throws gum everywhere and puts the girls on top of a tower to distract Drew. After destroying the Hollywood sign, the mustachioed man watches the city fall into ruin. While flying over Los Angeles, Lucy spots her daughters and runs to save them. She jumps out of the plane and hops on the gumballs to reach them while Drew continues his mission to capture the supervillain. He fires missiles and knocks down the giant toy, but Brat gets up and releases his mini-robots to counterattack. The creatures destroy the aircraft, but the twins manage to escape. The entire city is being destroyed by the giant gum and lasers, but Lucy narrowly manages to save her daughters. Mel schemes an action plan for his companions to help Drew get rid of that villain. Meanwhile, Drew manages to break into the robot and rip out the wires before his brother is completely toasted. At this point, the giant robot is destroyed, but Brat does not give up his revenge. Drew then challenges him to a dance fight and uses this distraction strategy to steal his enemy's guitar. With the instrument in hand, he gets revenge for the day Brat had him exposed in front of the whole town. When the two brothers meet, they celebrate their victory and Lucy and the girls show up soon after to complete the team. To make the day even better, the minions join them, and Drew is extremely happy to have his family together again. That night, everyone has a pillow fight to celebrate, and before going to sleep, Drew asks the group to behave because he and Lucy have managed to get their jobs back. When the man leaves the room, Drew joins the minions in planning their night of crimes. Upon hearing the noise of the vehicle coming out of the garage, the couple gets scared and opens the door ready for the attack. However, upon realizing who those villains were, Drew decides to give them a 5-minute head start.